Welcome to the party. It's Locked On Sports, Minnesota's brand new endeavor, and all football, all Vikings podcast coming at you twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays with local experts. My name's Sam Ekstrom. I'm joined today by Luke Inman of Superior Sports Talk with Reggie Wilson. He's on Twitter at Luke_Spinman. Arif Hasan joins at Arif Hasan NFL, and it wouldn't be a party if somebody wasn't fashionably late. Luke Braun will be joining us whenever he's done taking his rabbits for a walk or whatever it is he does. Make sure to check us out on the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, or watch us on video. You might see Luke's dog, Luke's plant, Arif's humidifier, and my little purple glowy background thing. What's up, guys? How's it going? What do you got?
Not much. Should I get a purple glowy background? I could do that right now if we wanted.
Yeah, is that the thing? Is that what we're doing here? I thought we were going to talk about that, Sam. You didn't text me.
I thought we had a meeting about how we all needed purple glowy background branding. Arif's got cool black and red spongy pads.
Why stop there? Can I pull out all my nostalgic Vikings memorabilia, my 3 Deep poster from Burger King from 25 years ago?
I've still got that thing unfurled at my cabin for whatever reason. It still holds up. Reed, Carter, and Moss. Hey, today we're going to talk about Kirk Cousins, and a lot of people were intrigued by the trailer we released for this podcast, where we had a lot of hot takes about Kirk Cousins, and I'm gonna take people behind the curtain, spoil things for them. That was a mock debate. We were not really debating, but we should. We should really debate. Let's tell people what we really think about Kirk Cousins, the Vikings quarterback entering 2022 with massive expectations. Give me your best Kirk Cousins take. Let's use it as a launching point. And Luke Inman, hit me.
Yeah, I think so much of this conversation gets veered towards, can KOC do with Kirk what he did with Matt Stafford in LA? And I'll say it again, it might just not be possible to get that same level of play, because Cousins doesn't offer the same intangibles that Stafford does, like the rocket arm, his ability to create plays. Kirk's never been able to make those things happen with his feet, and you're setting yourself up for disappointment, I think, if you think he's just going to start now after 10 years into his career, all of a sudden, just because a new head coach is here. So KOC is going to have to do even more work for Kirk than he did in LA, and that's a huge challenge for a first-time head coach, because I don't think just bringing in a new offensive scheme is the solution for turning Cousins into Matt Stafford light, if you will. I think fans need to scrap that idea notion, because your quarterback doesn't have the same tools and skill set as the guy you're hoping he can be. That doesn't mean KOC can't take him to another level like he's talked about we haven't seen before, but it's still going to be in the confines of what Cousins offers. And when it comes to expecting Matt Stafford, he's just not there when it comes to those important intangibles, in my opinion. Let's not forget, Stafford was drafted number 1 overall coming out of Georgia for a reason. Kirk Cousins drafted in the 4th round for a reason. There's only so much KOC can realistically do to help elevate Cousins in this new scheme.
Yeah, McVay couldn't do it. LaFleur couldn't do it. Stefanski couldn't do it. Get Kirk Cousins deep into the playoffs. Arif, I believe your mock debate hot take on the trailer was, when the cards are down, you can't tell me that Kirk Cousins knows what to do and get down the field and win the game. Is that how you really feel?
I mean, yeah, the part of the scripting process for coming up with that debate was to come up with a take that was easy for me to generate, which in this case meant something that I actually did believe, is that it was actually really difficult for me to conceive of a world where Cousins is a very good, high leverage situation quarterback, one that can win on 2-minute drills and continue to produce when the chips are down and they're down 6 points and need a touchdown to win the game. A lot of that has to do with situational awareness. A lot of that has to do with his tolerance for taking risk, and it very much sounds like that's actually something that they're working on in camp. I don't know if you remember Cousins' presser from near the beginning of camp. He talked about how he had to change his reads in order to accommodate the new offensive scheme, which is pretty normal for quarterbacks. I saw some people making a big deal about that. But one thing was that he had declined a read at the beginning of his progression and moved on And KOC walks up to him and says, hey, actually, I want you to stick with that read, which it clearly means that there is a different risk tolerance or a different way to view the football field that he's attempting to get Cousins to see. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way Cousins views risk and how he views reward, and how he doesn't, kind of what Luke was alluding to, color outside the lines when you kind of need to be improvisational, right? Like, one thing about Matthew Stafford is that he's a very high volatility quarterback. You know, Stafford has long been known for his fourth quarter comebacks. Unfortunately, he's had to perform a lot of them as a former Detroit Lions quarterback, so he's had a lot of practice there, but he succeeded on a number of them. He's actually led the league a couple of years as a comeback quarterback. Now, the other side of that is that late in the game, Kirk Cousins is unlikely to throw like a pick six. Like we saw that at the end of the season with Matthew Stafford last year, is that he does have a proclivity for throwing, back-breaking interceptions. We saw that with Favre too, right?
2018 Kirk was back-breaking. 2018 Kirk.
Yeah, that's true. Right. But that has less to do. No, that's a good point. That has a lot less to do with his tolerance for risk, and a lot more to do with just kind of the way he was trying to read the field. And he came out of some of those games saying, I need to change the way I play. I need to take less risks. And it's like, that's the exact wrong lesson to learn, man. Like, one reason Favre was able to make it deep in the playoffs is that he was willing to take the types of chances that would, yes, result in an end-of-game interception against the Saints in 2009. But that kind of quarterback, you need that kind of quarterback in order to even get there in the first place, right? Case Keenum took a lot of risks. He also ended up in an NFC Championship game, right? Now, obviously, some of those have to bounce the right way. They haven't for the Vikings. They did for Matthew Stafford. But without the ability to take those risks, without the ability to say, I know this progression is telling me that I have to move off of this, but there are 3 seconds left and I have to get a touchdown. If I lose by an incompletion or I lose by an interception, none of that matters. So I'm just going to try and close touchdown, right? We saw a little bit of that in his comeback against the Saints in the playoffs, right? The throw to Kyle Rudolph, right? But for the most part, we don't see that from him. And so that's why I'm concerned, is that he's just too risk averse in situations where you have to throw that, kind of to the wind.
The takes are coming in hot. We've got a knock at the door. We got to go see who's coming into the party. Let's go. Let's get the bowl. Have him put his keys in. He's going to join us now. Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings. Welcome to the party, man.
What's
shaking
the
the cobwebs
for?
out?
BYOB.
A little bit.
Totally different type of party.
Good to
I don't know
see
what
you.
I signed up for. Hey,
the key
everybody.
whole thing, Sam, do you what? This is not the appropriate venue to discuss the various types of parties that could imply. We are just hoping that you don't become too inebriated to drive home. That's what the key bowl thing means this time.
That
Okay,
is
that's
correct.
better.
If there are other interpretations, I'm too naive to know them.
Yes, that is a true statement.
Are we talking about how Kirk Cousins won't make it?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
litigating the fake
More or
debate that
less.
we had in the trailer.
Luke,
Yeah.
let me tee you up here. Let me tee
Okay.
you up. So Kirk Cousins is a quarterback that needs everything to go right, or he needs something to be spectacular around him, right? Like Case Keenum had one of the best defenses ever. That sort of propelled him to greatness. Now, Kirk Cousins could improve, I think, with spectacular offensive line play. I've seen nothing to suggest that that's going to get drastically better. He could have a number one defense, but are they going to go from 30 to 1 by just like shuffling the deck and mixing up a few pieces? No, I don't think so. Could they have a spectacular offensive-minded coach who has amazing play calling and he pulls the right strings? I think that's TBD, but it's also the first time this guy's called plays full-time. So I don't see what is that item is that's going to push Kirk Cousins over the top. Your thoughts?
So I kind of agree with Arif and I kind of don't, in that, like, Kirk he's an old dog, and it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. He's been in the league for 10 years, and the way he approaches the game is the way he approaches the game. He defends choices that would get criticized, right? Like when he, if you remember that Packers game last year where he won the game on the back of a whole bunch of super risky but super awesome throws, and then later said, that's not me. I don't want to be doing that, even though it worked that time.
That throw to Adam Thielen that ruled? Yeah, he hated it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Like he was like, I don't want, and even Mike Zimmer was like, please do more of that. And Kirk was, in so many words, was like, no. So
I don't want to.
Yeah. So that's always been the sticking point for me. Like, okay, he maybe could be better if he made different decisions, but he genuinely doesn't want to make different decisions. So he's not going to be better. If Kevin O'Connell can fix that, then I think you can get something more out of Kirk. And that episode that you mentioned, Arif, with him like being asked to progress and he didn't progress or something, I that gives me like a lot more optimism than I think it gives everybody else, because that's a quarterback talking quarterback language to a quarterback. You know, when Mike Zimmer gives that note, it's like, hey, could you be more aggressive or be less risk averse? And in like a practical sense, what the hell does that mean? Does that mean I progress here or I don't? Does that mean I throw it when the corner is 2 yards off versus 3 yards off? Does it mean, you know, I take this versus that? Like, what is be less aggressive? Like, it's so vague, and it's Zimmer's a defensive guy. He's not going to have that lingo. Kevin O'Connell does. And he says, hey, you know, when you have that look, and I'm sure it was a lot more specific than what we heard in the presser. It's something like, you know, when you have that look and the corner's got outside leverage there, I know you want to throw that low and inside hook, but that will probably mean that the nickel corner is up in press. And that means that there might be a really good slot fade. So progress onward. There might be something really good on the bone that you're leaving. And meat on the bone is exactly the problem with Kirk Cousins. That's the whole thing. So if Kevin O'Connell can encourage Kirk Cousins to find more of that meat on the bone, yeah, we might have something a lot cooler. How that translates to the entire 2022 Vikings, I don't know. Everyone's learning a new defense, and they're going to start a whole bunch of rookies. That seems like it's not going to work great right away, and we're probably going to have to deal with some games, but with some bad games. But hey, we're Vikings fans. We're used to watching teams win 40-30. That'd be pretty cool, actually, if we were once again a team that played inside and played 40-30 games. I would actually kind of like that. That'd be fun. But no, it's not going to be a perfect team right away. But I think if we want to look for how Kirk Cousins can improve, it's because not only is Kevin O'Connell a better offensive mind and all that stuff, but because he's a quarterback who knows how to talk to a quarterback.
If I can,
I think we're sleeping on Wes Phillips. I think we're sleeping on Wes Phillips as an influential character in this offense. Also, major Connor Roy vibes from Succession. Don't know who's a fan. But if you watch Succession, you knew who Connor. Well, it is not a good thing. This is more of a like an aesthetic, like a visual sort of profile. When he talks, I hear Kevin Stefanski, who is not Connor Roy. He's much more cerebral than Connor Roy. I think Wes Phillips is going to be in Kirk Cousins' ear. He's going to be a calming force. So the cohesion between Phillips and KOC and Kirk is going to create this very comfortable cocoon that Kirk Cousins just gets to lay in and sort of, you know, bake in for these months, 4, 5, 6 weeks before the regular season. And then he will blossom into a butterfly in week 1.
I'm
Maybe.
Just thinking about
that's the best
in
case.
The good place that the evil judge would use. Sorry. I shouldn't have said
scenario.
Evil judge. That's spoilers.
Quick pause to tell you about betonline.net, the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews of every league, including NFL futures, Vikings Packers Week 1 line, NHL futures, NBA. You've also got combat sports, esports, and golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering info, live in-game betting scores, and podcasts. They've got you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. Gentlemen, it's time to get into the 4-minute drill. Dun, 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 dun.
Uh-oh.
Why was it so long?
None of us have anything.
All right, at some point, I want to say there's going to be a clock associated with this. It'll be like right in the middle, at the intersection of our boxes if you're watching on YouTube. But until then, I'm going to have the stopwatch going. Here's the concept of the 4-minute drill, which Kirk Cousins is such an expert at executing. You're each going to get a minute for a total of 4 minutes. You must argue the following point in your minute, and you must be convincing. This is the prompt. Where does Dalvin Cook rank amongst players that are most valuable to the Vikings this season? Where does Dalvin Cook rank amongst most valuable players to the 2022 Vikings? Luke Braun, for no reason except I'm looking at you right now, I'm going to have you go first. Kick off the 4-minute drill. Probably get some, you want to have some completions. You want to move the football, move the chains a couple times. Let's get it going. I'll start the timer.
All right. So Dalvin Cook probably ranks higher than other running backs are going to rank on their teams. He's not just some random like James White, right? Because especially in the way that it seems like Kevin O'Connell is going to use running backs. He's got them splitting out wide. He's got them in bunches. He's been using them downfield a lot more, like McVay uses running backs downfield a lot more. So this is not just going to be, Alexander Mattison, bottom of the list. Dalvin Cook's going to be a little higher than, other teams like starting running backs. That said, you're going to put him behind Jefferson. You're going to put him behind Thielen. I'd put him behind Irv Smith, probably behind the tackles. Kirk Cousins, of course. So on just the offense, we're going to, I don't know, somewhere in the middle. And I guess if you add the defense into there, I'd probably put somebody like Dalvin Cook behind
10 seconds.
The principal defensive players like Kendrick Smith Hunter. So I'll estimate and go with 15th.
Time. 15th. 15th most important. Dalvin Cook. Paid a lot of money to be the 15th most important player on the team. Arif Hasan.
I think it's actually a little bit below 15th. In fact, maybe substantially below 15th. I think that people kind of understand my stance on this is that running backs typically do not matter. Dalvin Cook probably matters a little bit more, like Luke said, but not, I think, as much as Luke is implying. So the ways that we know that running backs are important historically and statistically is first in pass blocking, second in pass receiving, third in actually running the ball. Pass blocking, Dalvin Cook is actually bad at. Pass receiving, Dalvin Cook, I think, is unfortunately overrated by fans. He's kind of mediocre at it until we have more evidence otherwise. Third is running the ball. He's very good at that, but that's the least important skill a running back can have. The more influence you have on running the ball comes from run blocking. Now, Dalvin Cook can add 20 yards to a 20-yard run in a way that Alexander Mattison can't, but that is an exceedingly rare circumstance, does not add as much to value as being able to get those first 4 or 5 yards, which is controlled more by the offensive line than anything else. Plus, he's got a high-level replacement, Alexander Mattison, and 2 other potential replacements in Kene Nwangwu and Ty Chandler. If he goes down, the Vikings running game will continue apace, and they might even get better because they've got better receivers.
Arif gets up and spikes the football, stops the clock. 2 minutes left in the 4-minute drill, and it's Luke Inman's turn.
Yeah, if it was just who's the most talented guys on the roster, Dalvin would probably be in that top 5 discussion. But when it comes to the value, it's hard to say until you know how and how often KOC is going to use Dalvin. And not just, well, what's the pass-run balance going to look like? With the old regime, it was just, we're going to line it up, run the ball 25 times, no matter what. They knew it. We know it. You can put 8 men, 9 men in the box, didn't matter. We know that's not going to be the case this time around. So seeing Dalvin and his touches drop from 25 to 15 isn't going to shock me, but how those 15 touches are dispersed and how they maximize his touches, that's going to be the catalyst to his production and efficiency in this offense. And if they play it right, those 15 touches could be more effective than what we saw under Zimmer's offense. Bottom line, though, when you look at the value of him, how far is the drop-off from the guys behind him? We know what Madison and now Kene Nwangwu can offer. We know the Rams didn't have a Dalvin talent on there, but I'm going to say in that 8 to 10 range outside of Cousins, J.J. Hunter, Za'Darius, O'Neal, Kendricks, Thielen, and Harry, in that 8 to 10 range.
Everybody with a very measured view of Dalvin Cook, and I thought I was going to be somewhat hot of a take going out of the top 10, but I agree. I think he's out of the top 10. I look at Cousins, Jefferson, Thielen. I could argue that your third wide receiver, Osborne, might be more important. Irv Smith, and especially, too, with the lack of depth. There's no tight end depth, right? There's very little offensive tackle depth, very little edge rushing depth. So all of those players are more important. When you have Alex Madison, Kene Nwangwu, Ty Chandler, when they can all fill in for Dalvin Cook and give you 80-85% of what he's able to give you, you're going to be fine. In addition to that, Dalvin Cook is injury prone. Dalvin Cook is drop prone in the passing game, as Arif alluded to. And, I mean, he is substantially worse in the second half of seasons because of the injury problems, and that reduces his effectiveness. So I think he's about the 11th most important person. Many other positions of great positional value. That's the end of the 4-minute drill. Good job, fellas. I want to jump into our next segment called Rank 'em. And Arif, you were with me as we came up with the genesis for this topic. These are the players I want you to rank. And I can't not smile talking about it because I think this is going to be hilarious. I want you to rank 4 of the most disappointing Vikings offensive draft picks in the last decade, and this is why I bring it up today. There was a question for Ed Donatel and Kevin O'Connell about the right guard battle. And I'm sorry, not Donatel. It was Wes Phillips, the offensive coordinator. And no one mentioned Wyatt Davis. Not a mention. They mentioned Jesse Davis. They mentioned Ed Ingram, a rookie. They mentioned Chris Reed. No one mentioned Wyatt Davis. So Wyatt Davis is headed down this track where he's going to join TJ Clemmings, Willie Beavers, Drew Samia. I want you to rank Davis in that group amongst disappointing flameouts that the Vikings have drafted in the 3rd and 4th rounds. Who wants to go first?
That is so interesting. So I think if we're ranking best to worst, I think Clemmings actually is up top, which is wild to me. But Clemmings, I think, he was obviously the worst tackle in the NFL when he was playing as a starting tackle. But this is kind of the cards were dealt in terms of ranking. And I think that he had not only much more upside, he had much more reason to believe in the player that he was. And he was kind of forced into an unfortunate circumstance. He had all the tools. Plus, I thought he played a little bit better than someone like Willie Beavers. So I'm going to put Clemmings up top. And then
Beavers didn't play, though. What did Beavers? Beavers practiced, but Beavers didn't play.
Right. I think that's part of the problem, right? So Beavers. So a quick preview: Beavers is number 4 for me, right? Because he got cut as a rookie, as a 4th round pick. That happens.
Yeah, that's bad.
Once a year in the league, right? Or not once a year, once every 2 years in the league, right? Like it's 1 out of every 64 cut down sessions. You cut a 4th round rookie before week 1. Right. So that just doesn't happen. So Beavers to me is number 4. Another reason Beavers is number 4 is because you should have known coming out of college. He had the worst pass blocking efficiency of any player draft eligible that year at tackle in the NFL. You should have known. And he wasn't good enough to even be on the roster when he was drafted. And, the Vikings famously have strong offensive line depth, right? Like it would have been so hard for him to break the roster. So he's number 4 for me. And so between Drew Samia and Wyatt Davis, I'm going to go Drew Samia above Wyatt Davis. Again, this is kind of a situation where it's like, we didn't think about cutting Drew Samia in year 2. And we're almost, I just put out a 53 where I cut Wyatt Davis. Every 53 I've put out, I've cut Wyatt Davis, right? It's not a given, but it seems more likely than not. I was not at that place with Drew Samia year 2. So it's TJ Clemmings, Drew Samia, Wyatt Davis, Willie Beavers for me.
See, that's interesting because I could easily reverse that list and argue that those that played more, that TJ Clemmings, by virtue of starting 2 years for the Vikings, was more damaging than someone like Willie Beavers, which therefore makes him a worse draft pick. PFF rank as a rookie. This isn't as bad as I remembered, actually. 50 of 61. So he's in the bottom 15%.
Hey, that's
next year for
Garrett
TJ
Bradford.
Clemmings, 60, that's true. 62 of 63, TJ Clemmings in 2016. That is damaging to the team. Drew Samia,
hey,
91st.
Mark Sanchez is more damaging as a quarterback than Nathan Peterman, but who'd you rather have?
I see your point, but I don't see your point. Drew Samia, 91st of 92 in 2020. Willie Beavers played 11 career snaps. So, while he never even reached the point where he could be thought of to be thrown into a game, Drew Samia, they did not want Drew Samia in that spot. They did not want TJ Clemmings in that spot because they clearly were not good. But circumstance dictated that they play, and I feel like because Clemmings gave you 30 games of terrible offensive line play, that is the worst draft pick. Anyone else
It's not
care
his
to
fault. They
care to
brought in
contest?
2 right tackles. Both of them got injured before it's not his fault, man. They brought in Andre Smith and Phil Lodeholt.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Sam. The argument can be made, play a little devil's advocate, but I lean more with Arif on this one because apparently, clearly, the coaches still thought, and again, given those 2 major injuries right before the season, Clemmings was the best option. So it could have been even worse despite how bad he was. Clemmings at least gave you, 16 games in 2016, I want to say. He started a lot of games, obviously. Willie Beavers, to get cut, like Arif said, as a 4th round pick before week 1 is unheard of. Drew Samia, I remember a little hype coming out. You remember he was with that great offensive line protecting Kyler Murray. I think it was Ben Powers. Creed Humphrey was on that offensive line as well. He obviously flamed out. Would he start 4 games, I think, last season? Wyatt Davis, I guess, is still an unknown. Doesn't look good. It's looking bleak. More and more every day, but there's still a little bit of an unknown. Remington Award winner in the Big Ten. Not that that means much, but it's at least something to cling on to for some fans anyways. So I think I like TJ at the top, Wyatt Davis next, just because we don't know for sure yet. Still only second season. And then I'll go Drew Samia, and Willie Beavers has to be last for me.
And Wyatt Davis probably becomes the biggest bust if he goes through this year, doesn't play, gets cut year 3. He probably is then, because that'd be a third-round pick compared to the other guys, all fourth-round picks, and Davis not even getting a sniff. Luke Braun, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I have to put Willie Beavers at the top of most disappointing. Like, he couldn't make a team, man. Like, that's amazing. And he still can't make it. He's still getting opportunities, which is even more amazing. But, like, that's horrific. And not making more teams. Like, I don't know how he keeps getting invites.
In the National Football League, he's getting opportunities?
Oh, yeah.
Or in,
among others, yes. So
I figured it'd be like an Eastern Europe kind of thing.
So he's the worst for me. And then you get into this, like, glut of Wyatt Davis, TJ Clemmings, Drew Samia. And then for me, number 5 on my list is Kellen Mond. But
he's not a guard.
I don't know. Like,
he would be a bad guard.
He just makes all the lists.
No, he's an offensive lineman. Come on, man.
Well, he'd be a terrible guard. So
keeps losing weight.
Well, we don't know that.
I have TJ Clemmings next because he did make a team and he did end up starting, but he shouldn't have. Like you said, like, that was an insane circumstance, and I feel like if the Vikings weren't, like, if he weren't a 4th-round pick, and obviously he was like an athletic project, so you're gonna put him on the team no matter what. But, like, I don't think he ever played at a rosterable level. And, like, neither did Willie Beavers, but I think TJ Clemmings was just a little better than Beavers. And then I would go with Wyatt Davis, who does also seem like he's going down that path of, have we ever seen Wyatt Davis play at a rosterable level? So far, no. And if he gets cut this year, oops, yikes. And then I would put Drew Samia, because I don't think Drew Samia played at a very good level at all, maybe not even good enough to be a backup. He at least had moment of, you can buy this guy on a 53-man roster, and that's where we're at right now.
It would be a major yikes for Davis that after 1 year they bring in Schlottman, Reed, Davis, draft Ingram after 1 year. Like, not even like the new coaching staff optimism to say, oh, this guy's young, we'll coach him up. None of that. Like, something is at issue with Wyatt Davis, or they're playing 4D chess, and they're going to shield him from us the entire preseason and training camp, only to start him in week 1. Maybe that's the next level thinking. Before we move on, Luke, I have 2 questions about your background. What is the name of the gnome, and is that the real Robert Smith Vikings running back who wrote that book in your background, or is that a different Robert Smith?
Of The Cure.
The gnome does not have a name. I just like it.
That's a Reddit meme, right? You got the gnome because of Reddit.
It is a Reddit meme, and I'm terrible for it, and you can roast me. That's okay. But this is The Rest of the Iceberg by Robert Smith. It's his autobiography, and it's weird as hell. That is a very esoteric man.
Interesting.
Robert Smith, interesting
very
fella.
Unusual career path, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. He's a very, like, he wants to be Aristotle. It's weird.
Oh, now I have to read that book.
You should. I think you would like it for a bunch of reasons.
He kind of got ahead of the CTE game, though. I mean, you can't say that, he took too many hits, because he really got out of the game.
It was about his legs for him. It was about his knees for him. And CTE wasn't, like, as prominent as it was, back, like, in 2000, it wasn't quite as prominent. But, yeah, he absolutely probably saved himself a lot of years on the back end of his life.
We've got another knock at the door. We've got a guest of honor coming in. None of you know who he is except me, but you all know of him, and you've all been affiliated with him, and you've all worked under him at some point. We'll bring him in now. 4 Zone Coverage alums and Tom Schreier III joins us on the football party. Tom, you are the current or former boss of all of us. How do you feel?
Yeah, I don't know how this is allowed. Obviously, I'm happy to be on with all you guys. I think, but no, this is really special. Brings me back to the machine days. We're not quite in the back closet or wherever the hell Cumulus put us. It was soundproofed, very small, very warm. But
Very
this
warm,
does remind me of
extremely warm.
the heyday of the machine.
Oh my god! Oh my
I've
god! We are gonna have to have a new chucking contest.
Yes,
Tom
absolutely.
Schreier, 2019 champion. Arif Hasan, 2020 champion. I guess we had a pandemic year in 2021. We didn't have that
I
contest.
guess.
But Tom, give us your outlook for the 2022 Vikings.
I'm probably always a little more optimistic than the average media member, and less optimistic than fans, at least the optimistic ones. I think it's good. I mean, I know how negative people could be in Minnesota, but I think it's probably like a 10-win team. Again, that sounds kind of rosy, I guess, to some people, and other people they go, how the hell can they only win 10 games when you have these offensive weapons and O'Connell bringing in the offensive system and this revamped defense and, hopefully a healthy Daniil and all this stuff. But I think it'll be something in there. I think it's one of those things which will be unsatisfactory because people either wanted them to burn it down and do something completely new with the new people coming in, or they wanted the new people to come in and inject something completely unique and different and turn this into like a 14-win team. So I don't know. I kind of look at it as I think each game will be entertaining. I think it'll be well played. I don't think it'll be as tense. Obviously, it can't get much more tense than almost losing to the Lions and seeing the coach and the quarterback kind of sort of go at it. But I think it'll be a better feeling season because I think they'll win games normally. I don't know how to put it other than that. Like that they won't be like a chip shot miss or something in Arizona, or barely beating Detroit, or losing in their end zone because the guys were playing back or something. I think the Vikings will be sort of normal this year, and that's a step forward.
Tom, in my background, you see there's some flame. There's a fire there. That's representative of the takes that we're going to have on this show. Give us a hot take about the 2022 Vikings. Could be anything.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think out loud here because I must be a very unexciting taker, I guess. I'm trying to think of what like the best, most interesting.
Could be that Kevin O'Connell wears like the cutoff like Belichick because that's like his mentor. Or it could be. That,
I hope not. Actually, here's the thing, just real quick, because I was watching, Braun has this documentary on the history of the Vikings, which again, I don't know how you found some of this footage, but the Vikings played the Chiefs, and the Chiefs coach had a suit on. Was that right? Like he wore a suit on the sideline.
Yeah.
I actually could see O'Connell going the other way more. This is not my hot take. This is just a take on O'Connell no one needs to hear. Like, I think there was a guy like Miami's coach or something he didn't even wear the suit jacket, right? He just had the orange tie and the white suit, whatever. But I think O'Connell's more that he's some guys, it looks appropriate for them to be in sweats or whatever. It almost seems inappropriate. He's so buttoned up with like what he says and how he addresses people. And like, he has like this whole program in mind. And he's like, we're moving from the learning phase to the competitive phase. And I'm constantly answering the whys about our program and what the guys are doing on the field. And there's something about him that it's like, he definitely will not go the Belichick route. The Belichick routes, I'm good and doesn't matter what I wear on the sideline or whatever. I think with O'Connell, it's like, this is going to work out. Like, that's what he's projecting, right? Like, I'm in control here, even though he's a first-year head coach. So I don't see him going that direction. I mean, like, one thing I can think of, and I'll progress towards a take that's actually exciting and interesting, is like, I think people are actually going to like this Vikings team. I think even if last year's team had snuck into the playoffs or whatever, I think people had been like, that is unearned. Like, this is not what the Vikings should be. The Vikings shouldn't be relying on a last-second kick in Arizona, or they shouldn't be coming down the wire with Detroit, or they shouldn't have lost to Cincinnati because we didn't realize how good Cincinnati was in week 1 and they essentially beat themselves. You go down the list of all these games they played, and it's like, you could look at the final score or you could look at the stat sheet and you'd be like, man, that should have been a lot better, but it was spoiled by something. And then you compound that with these bad losses, losing to Cooper Rush or whatever, losing in Detroit. I think there's so much pressure on this team to either like be better than the Packers, which I just don't think they will be in year 1, given that Rodgers is still there, or like people are ready to just pounce on him and be like, these idiots should have burned it down. Why are you charging the credit card? Why are you pushing money back when we knew this team wasn't that good? And I do actually think people will leave more satisfied, if anything, because I think the best thing the Vikings can do, to go back to what I said before, is establish a sense of normalcy. The problem is this is always the team that does something ridiculous and wrong. You know what I mean? And I think if you have someone buttoned up who brings in modern techniques, I just, from what I've heard from Donatello and the guys down from Kwesi, from O'Connell, like, I think they're just trying to like wrestle this thing to the ground. And I don't know if you ever will. I think that's just an aspect of Viking football that goes back through their history. And I just think football is weird, and it's 40 or 53 men. And there's all sorts of kind of drama around every team, especially the Vikings. But part of me just thinks, man, we might come away and being like, that was weird. That was actually kind of a normal season. Like, it didn't feel like watching the Vikings, but actually to have that take, I can't be like, there's something ridiculous that will happen, because I haven't pinpointed it yet. We'll find it. We'll know it by week 3.
That is a hot take.
Because
that's good.
Because your take is essentially that the Vikings will be a normal team, and I've never seen that in my life.
No,
that's scorching.
And the bar is low, guys. The bar is very low. Just be normal.
And that they will be a genuinely enjoyable experience? You mean to tell me the Vikings aren't going to eviscerate me every Sunday? What is no?
Yeah, no, this is scorching. Yeah, the Vikings might be good for your mental health.
Now, Tom, you've had to edit all 4 of us at some point. Tell me who.
Yeah.
Power rank the copy.
Oh no,
the copy that you've had to read on that's come across your desk.
Sam is asking like a question that clearly favors it.
Yeah. See, that's the thing, is like, Braun, I'll get to you last because I currently work with you, and you also know where I live, and I know you're not super close to me, but you're close enough that I'm worried about it. You are an American. Not all our writers are in America. 2,000 miles away. You're a domestic flight. Although a very expensive one now with how much gas is. Sam, you did ask us in favor. Your copy was always spectacularly clean. I always say that most of our writers who come here are really clean writers who need to learn how to like find topics, or people who have really smart takes, really understand the game. And I'm like, dude, I actually have to teach you how to write, because no one can read this as you sent it to me in the Google Docs. So obviously we have a system to get it publishable. But Sam, obviously you had both. You knew the topics, you knew how to cover the team. You also wrote really cleanly.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. I hope it's enough. Arif, I think yours was fine. I think the issue is like, I was under the most pressure with you because I had to make sure I wasn't screwing up your concept work, because it just was so high level that I've watched football all my life. I don't understand all the analytics behind it. I don't understand all the strategy behind it. The other thing is, people online were criticizing like your work in a way that criticizes the editor. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you'd send something or you'd come by me and people would be like, Arif needs an editor. And I'd be like, hey, what the hell? He has one. I do edit his work. Obviously, now
you and Brandon both, who were like fantastic with it. It's just,
Brandon still edits for us. And people online are nuts. I always tell our guys, like, don't go on Reddit. Don't cancel your Facebook. Stay off Twitter to the extent you can. Like,
so this isn't like writing advice for your career. This is just advice. You should just
is just have good mental health. I think to avoid the dredges of society. But I'm gonna regret saying that out loud. But the point
follow
is,
us on Twitter at LockedOnMIN. That's at LockedOnMIN.
There's a good Tom Schreier laugh. I was wondering when we get there.
And then we have to get to Luke Inman's copy, because I've seen.
We will get to it.
I think it was like day 3. Tom was like, when you spell knife, the K is silent, right? You know that, right? I don't know if this is going to work.
I would say, here's the thing, Braun, and it's not just because we're sitting here looking at each other over the screen. Your writing's actually perfectly fine. You really know the concepts. We were talking about, we were like, Braun, it's like you're teaching a class. And I guess that is kind of what your writing is. You're trying to explain to a doofus like me, like, here's here is how
the tagline is "Kid you copied off in math."
Yeah, that's what.
And honestly,
leaning
it's the brand.
That's the brand.
Had we been the same age and I had gone to your high school, I probably would have.
Crazy hot take right there, Tom. Zonecoverage.com.
Well said. Beautiful.
Vikings content. You got wild content. You're covering the border team, the green and gold as well. There's plenty there for a Minnesota sports fan. Thanks a lot for joining us, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. That's Tom Schreier, zonecoverage.com. Let's keep ranking stuff. I've got one more rankum topic. Jared Allen is going into the Ring of Honor October 30th. Got me thinking, where does Jared Allen rank amongst greatest Vikings that were not drafted by the team? I've got him second behind Chris Carter. Would anyone care to disagree? Or remind me of something.
Are we including UDFAs? Because technically not drafted. They were brought in. UDFAs, obviously.
John Randall
in there?
Tingelhoff, John Randall, Adam Thielen, obviously.
I would.
There's a couple in
Jim
there.
Marshall.
Jim Marshall.
Okay, let's change the. Can we change the rules? How about players that were that were not acquired as rookies by the Minnesota Vikings? Because you're right, that is not technically drafted.
Sure. Chris Carter's a good one. Steve Hutchinson and Antoine Winfield have to be near the top for me. Brett Favre, obviously, there's two cases to be made. Well, he only gave you one great year and then 2 years total, but that 1 year was obviously magical. I think Steve Hutch and Antoine Winfield, and even Pat Williams as well, all belong up there. But Steve Hutch and Antoine Winfield, I think, have to be ranked right next to Jared Allen in those top three.
Yeah, when you think about
I actually
that, go ahead, Arif. I was going to say that 2009 team that made that run. Think of how many great players they brought in from elsewhere. I mean, Lieber was part of that. Even like Mediu Williams was on that team, and Hutchinson, and a whole bunch of them. Visante Shenko.
Let's not forget who brought in Antoine Winfield.
Williams.
Mike Tice.
God, I hated Mediu
Thank you,
Williams.
Mike Tice.
17-year-old idiot.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Arif.
So the 2019 was full of them, which is really fantastic. I immediately went to Antoine Winfield, and if I put up Jared Allen against say like Pat Williams and Antoine Winfield and Chris Carter and all that, I think that over the years we've come to underrate Jared Allen. He was a phenomenal player. Not to say Antoine Winfield wasn't, not to say Pat Williams wasn't, but Winfield is a borderline Hall of Fame case. Personally, I think he should go in. Pat Williams is a Hall of Very Good case, right? Chris Carter is one of the best receivers of all time, and so it's kind of in between there. I would also, I think, put Jared Allen second on that list, and I think Winfield is very close. I think Pat Williams is up there. I think Hutch, obviously, is a Hall of Fame. I don't know lock because he's a guard, but he should be a Hall of Fame lock, right? And so that's kind of where you're at. And I think that Hutch is actually closer than Winfield or Pat Williams on that list. But it is tough for me because I think that it's so easy to underrate the impact that Allen had. Because there were moments in his career he's better than DeMarcus Ware, right? And a lot of people put DeMarcus Ware, rightfully so, in this enormous pedestal. There were moments throughout the years that he was better than Ware, that he was better than Mathis and that pair that they had with the Colts. He was phenomenal, and he was better against the run than I think a lot of people really gave him credit for. He's a 100+ sack guy. It's just tough to beat the Jared Allen's impact on the team. So I think I'll agree with Sam here that he was second. And I think it's really high praise because the Vikings have brought in a lot of really talented free agents.
Yeah, I don't think I'm any lower on Jared Allen, but I think there are just some people I can't justify because there are people who are already in the Hall of Fame, like Hutch, Gary Zimmerman. There's Chris Carter. I kind of have to put all those guys up. I would put Jared Allen above Winfield as much as I loved Winfield. But I can't. The one I can't get past is Jim Marshall. Is Jim Marshall above Jared Allen? I think both should be in the Hall of Fame, and I think this is a genuine conversation, which is very high praise for Jared Allen, right? But like who I put above there, I think so. It's either like fourth or fifth, depending on what I decide there. But that one's really hard for me. I don't know because it's really hard for me to like era adjust that, and I don't know. Yeah, I think Jared Allen was a Jim Marshall quality defensive end for us in 2009, which I mean what that sounds like it means.
I think he was better than Jim Marshall, and that's not like a disrespect to Marshall. It's just,
No, I think it's
for my
arguing Hall of
reasoning is
Famers.
that for a producer position, you have to have high peaks, and Jim Marshall was remarkably consistent, really high level player, but there was never a moment where you would have called him the best edge rusher in the NFL. And for Jared Allen, you had those moments. So
it remains a shame that Jared Allen had to spend 2010 through 2013 on those Vikings teams, because 3 of those teams were atrocious and he deserved better. And obviously one of those years, 22 sacks, and no one talks about that, but what a season. Secondly,
it was a pretty bad year otherwise.
3-13. Do you think that would it be like non-negotiable he'd be number 2, Luke Braun, if he had spent his whole career with the Vikings? Does it influence you that he got about half of his sacks with another team?
No, it doesn't, because same with Gary Zimmerman, right? But that's more just that guy's already in the Hall of Fame. And so I'm kind of taking guys that have already made it and just sort of defaulting over that. But like
Jared
Chris
Allen's
Carter,
a lock. You should just consider him a Hall of Famer for this discussion.
I hope. I don't trust the Hall of Fame, all right?
It's a racket.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, but I still think I'm putting Gary Zimmerman over him. He was just such a lockdown guy. And then I'm putting Hutch over him too. Just those guys were so elite. I think they were Jared Allen levels of elite. That's where I'm at. And I think if when Jared Allen gets his gold jacket, and you can ask me to reconsider, and I certainly will. But
sounds like a man who knows his Vikings
right
history pretty well. You should make a documentary.
Sam, it is a fun exercise though, because
with the Broncos.
It's easy as time goes on to kind of forget all these big names, and especially when you throw the UDFAs in there as well. But you get to that second and third tier, like Linval Joseph. Yeah, didn't have the quite the longevity, but when he was in there, that 2017 defense was unbelievable. Randall Cunningham, if you're going to bring up quarterbacks like Brett Favre, Randall Cunningham, short stint, but 98 season was super fun. Paul Krause, another one. Was it Robert Griffin in the CFL or something like that? I don't think they drafted Robert Griffin, but he played 7 great seasons at safety in the late 90s as well for the Vikings.
Yeah, Griffin was
thinking of Krause.
He was CFL, yeah.
Was he? Okay.
So Paul Krause was drafted by Washington, and then also by
and then Otto Graham didn't like that he couldn't tackle, so he traded him. So it was like, this guy's too small to play safety, and traded him. And he's still mad at
I put
today.
Easily, I put Paul Krause above Allen. Would you again? No shade to Allen. That's Paul Krause. But Carter Krause.
There were so many people just yelling at their podcast right there, like Paul Krause.
Paul
Krause.
Yeah,
Paul Krause.
I blame Luke Braun. He's the historian, right?
I got there.
Yeah, but you should have gotten there sooner.
Hey, read another book, dude. Come on, we get it. You can read. I get it.
All right. As a group, for getting Paul Krause, that's our party foul collectively. But we do have to conclude the show with our individual party fouls. Run the animation. Biggest blunders of the week, gentlemen. It could be Vikings related, probably preferably Vikings related, but I'll allow you to go outside those confines for today. Worst decision, worst fashion statement, worst quote that you saw this week. Let's go around the table with some party fouls. Arif Hasan.
That one is tough. Okay, so you'll all probably beat me on this, but I'm first, so I'm at a disadvantage here. My biggest issue with something that happened within the Vikings organization within the past couple of days that I can remember is me asking Wes Phillips a question about bunch receiver sets, stacked receivers, and him responding with condensed formations. That sounds extremely lame and high level, but I was looking for an answer to a question, and he answered a completely different question, and he knew it. And I would rather him say, hey, that's a strategic question. I'm not really going to answer that because, we're experimenting with a lot of things. Who knows what we're going to, move forward with or not move forward with. And I hope you understand that, we don't want to put the Vikings at a disadvantage here. I'd rather he had just said that than answer a different question so obviously that it is unhelpful to the way that I'm going to write this piece. So me asking about bunch receivers and stacked receivers and him answering with an answer about condensed formations, which has nothing to do with any of that, to me is a party foul.
That's very Connor Roy-like, you might say. One of the Lukes.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I think I'm going to Arizona and what they decided to do in that contract with Kyler Murray. Like, what are we doing? If that wasn't bad enough, did anybody else have a problem that it was only 4 hours? Like, I have this stigma in my head that all quarterbacks are like the last guy in the library as the custodians, like shutting off the lights and everything. Peyton Manning grinding the tape for an extra 40 hours. 4 hours? That was it? That's what you complained about?
Like half an hour a day.
It's like independent time, right? So there's the time in the team facility that he's expected, and then, but yeah, no, that's actually an interesting point.
4 hours.
Yeah,
that's like you chop that up into a normal work week, a 5-day work week, and what are you talking about? An extra 40 minutes a day? That's it? Okay, all right, love it. Go Cardinals.
I'm gonna go with the Vikings' futile attempt to keep their offense a secret by asking fans not to take video,
also
and then every fan absolutely not listening.
This is mine. This is also mine. I'll jump in on you with that.
So
one.
this was like, I get it, right? You're a scheme whiz head coach, and nobody knows what you're gonna run yet. Nobody knows your playbook. It's your first year. Nobody has any tape on offenses that you've like 100%. Even in Washington, he didn't really have control, and in LA, it was a McVay. Like, I get it, but it's training camp. Fans are going to take video. And in about 40 minutes of the first practice open to fans, we had people already posting pages out of McVay's playbook that Kevin O'Connell was using. Like, we already knew it immediately. And we're Twitter. Like, I'm sorry, the Packers have this already.
It was
glorious.
Like, the fact that the playbook pages were posted along with the videos of nothing could have been better, honestly.
It was so funny, but like, oof.
I mean, like, meanwhile, the Ravens are like, you go to ravens.com, you see like all the team drill practice
all 22.
Footage.
Yeah.
All 22 of it, yeah.
It's like, come on, man.
Rashad Bateman making plays. Yeah, I mean, so my understanding is that there was some concern that the Dalvin Cook lining up as a wide receiver thing in OTAs got so much press. So that concern sort of lingered into training camp. And then there might have been some videos posted early in training camp when the practices were not public that further kind of raised the eyebrows of the team and their paranoia level. And that, I don't know if they planned this all along or if they kind of decided this last second, but it really is just empowering the fans. Like, any fan who's going there to post to Twitter is going to get it done. Like, they're and now they're going, and now reporters can't post. That's the other part of this, that those that are on the sideline with credentials are not allowed to post at all. And we can't risk that by posting and going rogue. But the fans obviously can do whatever they want. So now they have become the only source. Yeah.
It creates a huge incentive for fans to do that, right? Because if the reporters can't do that, the fans become the only source of that kind of content. Whereas teams like the Browns, the Ravens, I already mentioned, they're getting ahead of it, just posting it themselves, right? Like,
and the Vikings are also doing that too, which is a little hypocritical that they are posting full plays and not always like an all 22 angle, but you're seeing stuff, from the team that they wouldn't sanction a fan or reporter to post. So that's a party foul. Blow the whistle, and I can't whistle. That's the end of the show.
Get a whistle.
Let's see if I can hydrate.
Oh no!
Best I got. I can't do like the two
so
fingers.
that's the fifth party foul. All right, we're gonna.
You have a dog?
Oh, yeah, that's mine. Now. You can have the.
He doesn't listen to me.
I wonder why.
That's the football party for this week. You can subscribe on YouTube. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcast. You can check out the videos. Again, that's Locked On Sports Minnesota YouTube feed and podcast feed. What is the laughter?
I'm just looking at Arif and I'm just reacting.
No, don't worry about it. No, don't worry about it. We're good.
Thanks for watching the show. Thanks for listening to the show. That's Luke Braun, Luke Inman, and Arif Hasan. I'm Sam Ekstrom. Mondays and Thursdays when the show drops. Thursday, we'll be back at it. Until then, it's been a good party.